Hello, everybody, and welcome to the third episode of BitCastSV. You may be wondering why there was not a second episode. Well, there is, but it's not going to be until after the third episode due to certain editing issues. So thank you for bearing with us on that. Hello, Daniel. Welcome to our third episode.
Hey, Evan, great to be here. And we have a great topic this evening, too, that I'm excited to talk about.
Yeah. So I actually am calling it proof of Binance.
Yeah.
And that's really what proof of stake has become. And we can see it quite clearly here with what happened with Daniel Lammer's old project, Steem, and Justin Sun's takeover of this project. So
Now, who is
yeah,
Justin Sun?
Justin Sun is a gentleman who, I guess, created Tron, or maybe, I don't know, copied, really, because it is at best a copy, and a rebrand, which has notably taken over BitTorrent.
Well, wait a minute. What is Tron a rebranding of? Because I don't know what Tron is, but we can say Justin Sun is involved in Tron, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think he just copied the white paper
Of what?
from Filecoin and apparently a few different white papers.
So Tron is the project that brings in a bunch of ideas from other projects, and it is so it's a generic crypto project, and Justin Sun is involved in it.
Yeah, he
And
branded it, which is typical in a lot of businesses these days, is just branding, right? You buy some crap from somewhere and you make it look fancy and
oh,
resell it for a higher price. And I think that's kind of what Justin has done here with Tron. And that's why he does a lot of these kind of marketing style things, like, his whole lunch with Warren Buffett and whatnot. So, I don't know if there's any real technical merit to Tron, but everything that this has shown kind of makes me think there isn't. Um, but yeah,
well, no, but we're going to talk about Steam
sure.
today. So
Yeah,
Tron
exactly. No, it
doesn't
doesn't.
really enter into
No.
it. But
So we
maybe we can
probably,
figure out what
yeah.
what Tron is some other time
Yeah, that's fine with
if
me.
we have time. But what happened was there is now an alliance between Tron and Steem. And uh, some people who had Steem called this a hostile takeover. So some people tried to launch soft fork 22.2 on Steem, which would have prevented the new Steem owners who were involved in Tron from voting. So Steem soft fork 22.2 if would have destroyed the proof of stake system that Steem is supposed to have, because some people involved in it said that this alliance was actually a hostile takeover, and so they didn't want the Tron people to be able to vote. Soft fork 22.2 did not end up going through. So now,
Why did it not end up going through?
I'm not sure. Let's see if we can figure that out.
My understanding was because of CZ and Binance using the Steem that was held in their exchange to vote to prevent that.
Yeah. Okay. So the update was reversible, according to this article I'm reading called Tron executes hostile takeover of Steem, exchanges collude. So the soft fork 22.2 was reversible. And yes, it sounds like the article says to execute the takeover, it appears that Justin Sun convinced major exchanges, including Binance, Huobi, and Tron-owned Poloniex, to stake Steem held in their custody to vote to remove existing witnesses. Oh, well, that's interesting. So because the Steem was being held on exchanges, the exchanges voted for them.
Yes, yes. No, this is what I'm. So that's why I call it proof of Binance. It's not proof of
That
stake.
is so
It's
ridiculous.
Binance. It's proof of exchange. Yeah, it's wild. It's absolutely
Oh
wild.
my gosh!
And
Is
this really
crazy.
proves just how proof of stake it doesn't work. I think, in the sense that if all of a sudden
Yes.
it's just any entity that has a mass of them is who may not have any particular ownership over those tokens, just that they're in control of them, can then use them to vote for however they like. And in that case, it was for Justin's side.
Right. And more fundamentally, proof of stake will never work, no matter what you try to do to make it work, because proof of stake does not impose the same cost on manipulators as proof of work does. So in a proof of work system, there is always an immediate incentive for more honest actors to get more hash power in order to beat out dishonest actors, because there's money being earned at every moment, right? Because there's a new block every 10 minutes. So
Sure.
if you increase that that hash power, you can get more income now. And if you're an honest actor, you can have more hash power and keep it sustainably than a dishonest actor.
And that's also in line with the fact that if you want to do this, if you want to participate in actually validating transactions on the ledger, then you need to actually invest in the hardware, or you need to pay somebody who has to be
Yeah,
able
exactly.
to do that.
You
Where
need to lose first. You
yeah,
need to gain back what you've lost.
yes,
By contrast, the opportunity cost of holding coins is everything else that you could hold. So, but you're not losing what you have just by holding them. You're just losing the opportunity to hold something else.
sure. And most people, they're not holding these tokens in terms of the proof of stake tokens. They're not holding these tokens for anything beyond financial gain. So, their whole participation in the governance structure of a proof of stake system is as really nil, frankly, because they want to hold them on exchanges to be able to sell and trade. They're not particularly concerned about the actual governance to the level of, well, maybe it will affect the price.
Yeah, well, with proof of work, you gain back your investment over time, and there's no other way to do it. But if if all you're doing is holding the coins, you can back out at any time. So there isn't anything that is actually staking you to the future value of the network with proof of stake, because you can back out whenever you feel like it. When you get ASIC machines, those need to earn over their lifespan in order to make them worthwhile. So when you get hash power, there's a period of time during which you have effectively staked yourself to the health of the network.
And this brings up an interesting point that I like to make about proof of work versus proof of stake. And that is that I believe proof of work is what really ties this virtual system into the real world. And that is, you have factories that are manufacturing these ASIC computers that hire people, that use raw materials. And then you also have the consumption of electrical utility, which also further, at least in my opinion, creates a more tangible connection to reality.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And you're right. The holding the coins is completely speculative, and everything about the coins is future oriented, as we talked about in episode 1. But there isn't agreement as to what holding the coin actually means. The market has to be continuously figuring that out. So if somebody has a lot of coins, that doesn't mean he knows what he's doing, because it always takes time to figure out what is right. In other words, the market has to figure out all of the people in it and all of the actions that are taken in it. And it's good to hold the coins if your future actions are good. But what you can do with proof of stake is you can come in and without an intention of making the network better long term. So you before the market has understood what you did, you can gain by selling out. So kind of like what Charlie Lee did.
You can fool the market.
Right. Yeah. Whereas with hash power, it's sort of that's like there's nothing that's more real than energy, and that's kind of what you're losing when you're running these ASIC machines. So you have to know reality in order to sustainably lose energy. And so what you want when you have the ASIC machines is not to live in an illusion.
I like this point, not living in an illusion, because, obviously it's very important to look at things in a realistic way. And I think when you look at a lot of these proof of stake systems, they remind me of sort of utopian dreams, in that there's a lot of high hopes and good wishes, but in reality there doesn't seem to be much either outcome in that or basis for that in reality. I mean, it seems to me that it's almost technocratic, in that it's always just one rule that needs to be switched or changed or altered in order to come about this utopian paradise that we conceptualized with the beginning of our token offering. It's just a technocratic nightmare posing as a utopian dream.
Yeah, okay, I completely agree with all that. To me, utopia is based on the idea that people will all act perfectly, or at least that's sort of a characteristic of utopian thinking. And in a proof of stake system, people do not understand the need for handicapping as a way of creating believable, honest signals. So to me, that means that they're thinking people will just be honest, and there isn't a need to ensure that people are honest. But when there is benefit to or potential benefit to manipulating a system, then there has to be something that's keeping people honest. And so the way that we do that in Bitcoin is people have to lose energy first, and then if they're good, then they can earn it back in the form of Bitcoins. And that's the proof of work is a handicap signal that's on average honest, because it means that dishonest people will lose energy faster.
So that would be, yeah, a capital expense, in the sense that you invest, and because you're invested, you're gonna, or I guess another way is skin in the game. So you're invested, you have the potential, or at least your alignment with your investment is the success of the overall network in order to best profit off of your investment. And that is fundamentally something that proof of stake doesn't allow for.
Right. I think that there's a lot of poorly designed ideas in the crypto market right now, vying for your attention, when really almost none of them deserve it. I think that people in the crypto markets have not been valuing these coins very well in terms of how well they actually work. And so we've seen many projects that are capable of sort of functioning in the short term, and the market is not valuing them as if they will only last in the short term. See what I mean? Like if people understood that proof of stake doesn't work, then there wouldn't be proof of stake coins that have a high price.
This goes in line, though, something I said today, and that is, conservatively, 97% of this so-called crypto market, it shouldn't exist because it doesn't add any real value to society. Even among the 3% that we could definitely argue should exist or shouldn't exist, the value is generally just in the experimentation. And that's it, just as a way to like kind of prove or disprove the validity of certain concepts.
Okay, well, yeah, let's talk about it, that experimentation thing, because I've heard that excuse a lot, and
Sure,
to me that is a warning sign.
Okay.
When I criticize these projects, sometimes people say that I'm against experimentation, which clearly I'm not. What I'm against is building things, doing experiments when we already know what's going to happen. And to me, with proof of stake, we already know that it's going to be manipulated, because people who want a sustainable system will not join the proof of stake system. So you end up with people who don't know that it doesn't work, or people who want to manipulate. Those are the only people who are in the proof of stake system. And well, so when I say it won't work, then sometimes people have told me that I'm against experimentation. And I see that as concealing the need to profit off of these coins, even though there's no reason to. Like if people would just think about what really works beforehand, then we wouldn't need to build most of them. But as long as there is ignorance, then you can make money off of these experiments.
So
But and
this is,
wait, just a sec. Sorry,
yeah,
I just wanted to agree with you on, yeah, most of the crypto projects are nonsense and are sort of being built with principles that you can think about beforehand, and you can pretty much predict that they won't work.
yeah. I have to talk to a lot of people who are the business world or from other sectors. One of the things that I have to do is I have to present to them a very general overview of the entire blockchain sector. And of course, this is dominated by proof of stake, which we can argue is mostly because of the fact that it's the easiest to get away with in terms of creating something that uses a blockchain. How can I tell them that really it's okay to kind of know what's going on there, but let's, instead of trying to figure out all these different proof of stake projects, maybe we need to look into what is it that proof of stake really prevents us from being able to do, and that is to secure the system from abuse. How I can say to these people that proof of stake is a dangerous, potentially dangerous system to operate on.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good question. And so what I've seen is that some people have a lot of trouble with the idea that there can be a speculative bubble, even though there have been many in the past. And so I think that when you're talking to people, you just have to get a sense of how willing they are to just imagine that everything around them is topsy turvy. You know what I mean? Like if they're like most of the people in the crypto market are doing something that's completely wrong, and some people have trouble just entertaining that notion entirely, and other people are they understand the idea of a speculative bubble, and so it's not a difficult thing for them to imagine that the majority of people are just kind of getting excited about something that isn't real, that doesn't really work. I think that you just have to assess people for how willing they are to believe that that a commonly held idea is nonsensical. And I think that if you just kind of explain why proof of stake doesn't work, it seems kind of obvious. People who are just willing to evaluate ideas on their own terms will be able to understand what you just said. But some people will just need to figure it out for themselves.
And yeah, learning the hard way is kind of important. Of course, we could say that, oh, this would be amazing if all the crap just flushed away or never existed. Actually, let's just say that it never existed, that this disaster that is called the crypto markets didn't exist. I think it's important that it exists. I think that it's natural that this sort of circus has come, because it And sure, we can talk about signal and noise, and right now the signal is so slight, the noise is very heavy in this sector, and in a way that's not good, but in another way it offers a sort of insulation for that signal from the greater world, so that it forces those, or if those who really are open to finding the signal, and who are willing to go through the trouble of doing so, they find it. And it's much like the Lord of the Rings, where there's this sort of hero's journey to it. The obstacles of finding the signal allow those who are most interested and most passionate about it to find it and then build it. And as that grows, the noise will subside. Maybe not completely, but it will. And it will become more obvious to those from the outside who are not really paying attention, just because of the amount of noise coming from it. And so in a way it creates a fair discovery.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm a big believer in the idea that you're responsible for your investments. So you're supposed to know the relevant information about what you have, and you're the one who loses if it doesn't work. And I think that it's just necessary to take a strategic approach, and in order to be successful in these markets. Not everyone wants to do that. Then that's what I've seen. I see Bitcoin as being like a very complex cooperative game, and I see every action that I take in the market as being a part of that game that I'm playing with many other Bitcoiners. But I think that many people in these markets are not they're not really thinking about what makes sense. They're not making decisions that are very very
Sure.
successful.
Yeah.
And let's see, how do I put this? Like, people need to learn about their mistakes, and if you're not trying to diagnose your own mistakes beforehand, then you'll end up making one that hurts you. So that's kind of what being strategic means. But if you don't want to do that, then you end up with what we have now. I mean, not.
Sure. Okay. Continue, please.
No, I was just going to say. I mean, not their degrees. Like, not everybody is strategizing really well, but some people are, and the market will learn over time. And we'll see
Yes.
better strategies win out.
Yes, and I think, well, when we say market, I think that's a big kind of leap, really, because let's look at the participants in relation to the the potential participants, right? And the potential participants are the ones that are of a serious nature. They're established enterprises, often global. There's all kinds of different potential participants in the market that are not participating in the market because they know, based on all the noise, that there's nothing really going on, at least in their minds, right? That there's not any real value in any of this. And of course, they're unfamiliar with this beautiful diamond that's hidden among all the trash, right? Which is Bitcoin SV. But to them, the noise is the signal. And so, what is important that I think a lot of people realize is that it's not the market that we have now that determines the value of these projects, because as you were saying, the market participants are irrationally enthusiastic about things that have no real long-term potential to them or sustainability or value. But by keeping this noise as a cocoon around this signal that Bitcoin SV is, we're ensuring that some participants that are curious now are the ones that really find out, and they get to be competitive. They're ahead of the game. But as this noise begins to become ratioed out by the signal that Bitcoin SV has, I believe it will change this market dramatically. It's not because it will be a market, really. It will just become, it's not really actually supposed to be a market, frankly. And I think really what we'll see is a market develop on top of Bitcoin SV rather than a market that Bitcoin SV is a part of. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, I really agree with that. Yeah, to me, like, if you're denominating prices of these cryptos in dollars, then you're already admitting defeat. And money is supposed to be the unit in which prices are reported. So if we just used Bitcoin for that, we wouldn't need, there would be no reason to have any of the other cryptos. That's sort of then it's money. And the other the other cryptos are all just other future monies that are not really trying to win. Oh, and yeah, when you get into any market, you have to think about how it's going to be in the future. That's what you want to prepare for, and how it looks now is different from how it's going to look. But it's your job to figure out what it's going to look like. Sorry if that sounds trite, but it really seems like people talk about that every day, but they don't really do it.